Hello everyone, this is Akash Chauhan again, and this is going to be your next lecture. What we have covered in the previous lecture, we will cover the subsequent part of that lecture. So we have covered in previous lecture about the compilation procedure, how it functions. So we will look at the next stage. But before moving further, let's review what we have done in the previous lecture. In our previous lecture, we have seen that the compilation procedure is not that simple. Uh, Generally, we perceive compilation procedure as xyz.cpp, and we would have the uh, external file at the end. But there are a lot of steps in between that we don't focus upon. But in this videos, I'm trying that if I can give you a little depth of how each and individual unit functions at their level, right? Because at the end, the compilation motive would be to convert your code into 0 1 format, right? So let's review it with XYZ CPP file we have created. Preprocessor will replace all your macros, what we have discussed here. It will replace all your macro functions or the variables with its value, right? If we write here max, it will replace, let's suppose we have written max 1,000 times in our program. So at every place where we have written max, the value will be max will be replaced by 100, right? So far, this is clear, right? So what is the benefit of that? It means when it will reach to the second phase is the compilation phase, right? Second is the compiler. So when the code will reach to the compiler, all your non-essential work will be completed. Compiler wouldn't need to worry about that because pre-processing is something which is which is very essential to perform all the non-essential tasks. So compiler would focus on the important parts of your program, right? So this is what we have discussed. This is about the preprocessor. The file would be converted into xyz.i, right? The xyz .cpp file would be converted into xyz.i, and the file size would also be increased. In the compiler, the xyz.i file would become as an input, right? And the xyz.s file would become as an output. But the next unit is assembler. It would become the input for the assembler, and the output would become xyz.o. So let's not talk about this assembler or linker right now. Let's focus on the compiler part. Okay, so in today's lecture, we will focus on compiler, and if time permits, I'll also cover the assembler as well, right? So without any further ado, let's focus on the compiler part, right? Okay. Okay, so let's focus on the compiler. So in compiler, what is the main function? Let's talk about that. So we focus on two things in compiler. The very first thing is syntax analysis, and the second thing would be semantic analysis. What are these? Syntax and semantic analysis. Let's look at that. So we have taken this statement as general that we have taken in the previous unit as well. That the statement is x equal to y plus a cross z. Let let's say we have written this statement at line number, let's say 12 in our code. So the compiler job over this line or each line would be to check if the syntax of this statement is correct or not. The second thing would be the semantically this statement is correct or not. Okay, how it checks? First, the compiler would convert this statement into its identity or the token or the lexemes. So let's talk about that. It will convert, the compiler would convert this statement into lexeme. Let me write it correctly. Lexeme, or we say tokens, or let's say identities. I think we generally don't say identity. Maybe I've read this in the book, but generally we refer to uh, uh, converting a statement to lexeme and more often token. So what is lexeme and token? Token is something that how we can identify if it is a operand or it is a operator or it is a special character or what it is, right? So if we focus on this simple fact that x is an operand, right? Equal to is the operator, again operand, right? So what we can do, let's find out the operand first. Y is an operand, right? A is an operand, Z is an operand, right? Let's focus on the operator. Equal to is an operator, plus is an operator, and multiply is an operator, and this is the special character. So for a special character, let's assign this color. Okay, so all these are the tokens, the number of tokens, or we say lexemes. Okay, so let's count 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 are operands, right? 4 are operands, 3 are operator, and 1 is delimiter. So total we have 8 tokens. So total we have 8 tokens. So we have created tokens, or we have identified our tokens, but what is the basic use of finding all these tokens? So if we have found out that the number of tokens are 8, then what we can do, let's say, okay, so let's discuss one more important thing. Wherever there is an operand, there we have to store this value somewhere, right? In the register or somewhere. So we have to assign our identity to that operand. I think we are clear, right? So we have to assign an identity to that operand. So to assign an identity, we say we will assign id to that identity, or sorry, we will assign id to that operand. So this is the proper way to define a token or a lexeme, right? The second will be, I'm coming left to right, I'm going left to right, right, left to right, reading this particular statement. Compiler usually reads from left to right. In other precedence orders, there are different orders you can see of G++ or GCC compiler. If there are more precedence operator is there, the reading sequence will change. So you can find it out. Like if we talk about plus and cross, the it will not calculate plus logic first, it will calculate the cross logic first. We will look at it, but this is the proper way to identify a token of a operand, though. So the second is the operator, so we simply write operator, right? And the operator is equal to, right? Are we clear till this point? Okay, so what would be the next, what would be the next is, again we provide some identity and y. So we can cover it like that. We have plus, it is operator. We have a identity. We have cross operator. We have again identity. Z. We have again delimiter. So we simply write delimiter and then so this is the proper way to, these are the number of tokens, or this is the proper way to define tokens. So now we have all these tokens, so we have to perform syntax analysis and semantic analysis both. So what is syntax analysis? So let's talk about that first of all. The first is syntax analysis. Okay, so first is syntax analysis. So syntax analysis is something where this part of the compiler is responsible to find out if you have written a valid variable or not. For example, if you are simply printing out cout y without even defining this variable, right? Or without even declaring this variable in your code. It means it will show a syntax analysis error. It means you have not even defined the variable. Okay, let's say you have defined x in your code and then you have written x2. It will say I'm not able to find out where you have defined this x2 variable in your code. Okay, again the syntax analysis we have to check. So this is first thing, this is second thing. Third would be there are some symbols that you are not supposed to use in when defining the variable. Let's say you cannot use int. These are all the compiler defined data types or primitives. So you are not supposed to do that. So compiler would also check if you have used the predefined variable names or not, right? Again, another thing could be like you are not supposed to use the name convention like this underscore a. You are not supposed to define a variable like that. So all these set of rules would come into this category. The syntax of your program is correct or not. So for each individual token, let's say we have 8 tokens. So for each tokens, let's say ID, if this is the syntactically is correct or not. We are not talking about the second part. We are talking about is it syntactically correct or not, right? So we will apply this rule on every token, each and every token. So we will apply all the rules written in the syntax analysis unit of the compiler over this lexeme or the number of tokens. Let's talk about the second unit in the compiler. The second unit in the compiler is semantic analysis. Semantic analysis, right? So the semantic analysis we use is to find out if the meaning of this ID is correct or not. What is the meaning of what I have said? For example, you have in your code you have used int x, right? And you have defined later on 1.237. So you have defined it here as a integer, right? But here you are defining the value as a float. So if you look at it, it will pass through the first unit. Why? Because syntactically, the semantically, it is correct, right? So first phase it will pass, but in the second phase it will not pass. Why? Because the meaning you have attached to it is not synchronized. It means you have attached the meaning like it is an integer, but you are defining a float in it. It means it has no meaning, right? So you have to correct it. So compiler will throw an error, but definitely it would not be a syntactical error. It would be a semantic error. It means when the meaning of the things are not synchronized, when the meaning of the things you have defined are not in proper order. So the semantic analysis would throw an error. It would also come into the compilation error part, right? Because it is the second unit in your compiler. Okay. Another thing the semantic analysis would find out for you, like we have written this x equal to y plus a cross z. Okay. So let's say x we have defined as an integer, right? But here if we have calculated our logic, right? And the output of this right side, this is right side, this is left side, right? So the output of the right side coming as a character, right, like this, or as a float? So if you look at it, in that case, the data will not be lost because it is a, generally it is like, let's say, the 8 bits. It depends on the configuration on your system. Integer is like 4 byte, like 32 bits. So in that case, if the right side is character and we are converting it into the integer, it is the internal typecasting. So in that case, the data will not be lost. But if we have calculated the right logic as a float and we are converting it into the integer, okay, so generally in that case, the data can be lost. Okay, so that is the point, that this external typecasting, this internal typecasting may cause you the data loss. So this is also the job of the semantic analysis, that if you have calculated the logic you have written is semantically correct or not, right? So this is about the compiler part. So compiler part is actually the one we have discussed as in previous, that in the previous lecture, that xyz.i would become the input for the compiler and xyz.s would become the output for the compiler. And in this file, as you can see, it is 20 kb and it is 30 kb. It means something has done by the compiler. Okay, so what will happen in the compiler phase? The semantic analysis and the syntactical analysis will be there. So if it is correct, then we can create a assembler code, assembler readable code. So we can, when we have created this file xyz.s successfully, then we can pass this file into the assembler, and the assembler would create a object file out of that. Object file means object file itself is the binary code, right? So assembler will create assembly readable code, and then that assembly readable code would be converted into binary code. We will look at it uh, uh, when we are going to study about this assembler. But this is the important part, that you must understand, that the output for the compiler xyz.s would become the input for the assembler, and assembler is responsible for converting xyz.s file into object file. And in that object file, if you pay little attention, I will discuss this phase later on, that xyz.o file is itself a binary file, right? Binary file means it will be converted into 0 and 1, and before that the assembler would also be responsible for converting your assembly readable code. So assembly readable code should also be there, right? Because if assembler can read the xyz.s, then it can convert the file into xyz.o object file. So this is about the compilation phase. So we have done with that, this phase. We have done with this preprocessor phase. We have done with the compiler phase. We will let's discuss about the assembler. If time permits, I'll cover this in today's lecture. Otherwise, I'll discuss both of these units, assembler and the linker, in the next lecture. That would be the final lecture of compilation procedure. Uh, I think okay. So one important announcement to you guys. Probably what we have discussed by today, we will have a small quiz on that. Maybe from next week, maybe from Monday or Tuesday, I will upload that quiz on the Moodle itself. Everyone, you guys have to attend. It is mandatory for the everyone, because it would be considered as your internal assignment or the internal marks, right? So be prepared till what we have done so far, right? And for that quiz, it wouldn't take much time, but definitely you have to go through what we have done so far. uh, so guys, this is all for today's lecture, and in the next lecture we will discuss about the assembler and the linker, and we will try to finish this compilation procedure part 3 as well. Okay, thank you guys. I hope you have enjoyed. See you soon.